بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد طه الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهك الكريم لله تعالى. I start by praising Allah, the Exalted. I ask Him to raise the rank of our Master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, likewise his kind Ahl and his noble companions. May Allah protect the Ummah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam from whatever he feared for it, and grant us all the sincerest of intentions. May Allah Ta'ala accept our fasts, enable us to perform the good deeds, and take advantages of both the nights and the days of Ramadan by performing the good deeds. Thereafter, in the last session, we made a start on this topic known as the successful household, where we looked at the advice and rights of the husband and wife. We talked about how the religion of Islam established rights for both the husband and the wife, and success would only be found if one was to know what those rights are and abides by them. So we talked about how the husband is the one who is obligated to financially support his wife and his children, at the least until they become pubescent, and that the wife has rights over her husband, including being able to use whatever money she has or earns, the ability to use her own money for what she desires and what she likes without any prohibition or restriction from the husband. He needs to not share any secrets of hers or expose her to others. He cannot commit riba against her, just like any other Muslim. But since the spouse relationship is one where there is expected to be a lot of trust and intimacy, I don't mean physical intimacy, rather emotional intimacy, things you share with your spouse many times you not share with anybody else. And so to betray that trust by letting others know what is secret and private between you and your spouse is something that is not good and highly detrimental. And the husband is not permitted to divorce his wife at certain times. One would need to learn what they are. We mentioned them in the last session. And to be humble in his position and not arrogant or unjust to his wife just because he is the husband. Rather, he should take the lead of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who boasted about being the best among the people towards his wives. He was someone that would take good care of them, be generous towards them, treat them well. He did not treat them like slaves and servants. Rather, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was once asked about, through Lady Aisha radiyallahu anha. She was asked about him. What was he like at home? What was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam like at home? That is, we see him when he is out in the masjid, we see him when he's out in the open, we see how he is in public. She was asked, what's he like at home? For many people have their public demeanor, the face, if you like, and the behavior they might show in public, and then a more private one, as they say, behind closed doors. Sometimes they might act a little bit different, perhaps less reserved, and other than that. So she was asked, what's he like at home, in private? And she, radiyallahu anha, said that he is someone that is like any other person, meaning nothing special from one angle in terms of the households, nothing much to say. He wasn't performing miracles left and right at home, but at the same time, she said he used to go and milk the sheep himself. He used to repair his sandals himself. He would serve himself. If he needed something, wanted something, he would get up and get it for himself. He would not, kind of click his fingers or make orders while he's lying down or lounged on the sofa, etc. He was someone that was very proactive in serving himself and not relying upon his wife when he easily could have. He could have even asked in a polite way and got what he wanted, but he was someone that would serve himself. So, this again shows the lead that we need to follow as spouses, and particularly the men who want to be good husbands towards their wives. Let them look no further than the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also to teach his wives what they must know of the religion, and to show a general good demeanor and tone and patience towards her. We mentioned all of that in the last session. Inshallah, we're going to continue from there and talk now more about the husband. Firstly, Ibn Hibban narrated about the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that he said, أكمل المؤمنين إيمانا أحسنهم خلقا وخياركم خياركم لنسائهم. Which means among the believers who have the highest status are those with the best of manners. Their khuluq is the best. So, husnul khuluq, these good manners that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to talk about, consists of a person treating everyone well. Those who treat him well and those who don't. He doesn't pick and choose or only react well in accordance to the good treatment he receives. Rather, regardless of how he is treated, this individual treats others well. This was the way of the prophets. They did not say, well, you're negative to me, so I'm going to be negative back. This person speaks nicely, so I'll speak nicely back. That person's got an attitude, so they can, go their own way, and I'm not going to speak to them. Rather, the prophets were good to all, and this is how one should be. Likewise, they should prevent their own harm reaching other people, both verbally, physically, and to be patient with the harm of others. These three matters combined make up what's known as husnul khuluq, the good manners, about which the Prophet ﷺ said a person would get such a great reward similar to the one who fasts during the day, the optional fast, and stays up at night to perform the optional prayers. And in the same hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said here, and among the best of you are those who treat their wives the best. Treating your wives well would give you a high status. It's something good in the religion, something encouraged in the religion, something within which you can find reward. The way that you treat her, the way that you speak to her, the way that you react to her, just because, one day her tone was not quite as it normally is, you overlooked it. She spoke to you in a way that perhaps you should not have. You didn't make a big deal out of it. You did not hold a grudge. You were quick to pardon. The tone that she showed you one day, you were willing to be patient with it. Behavior, being willing to serve her. She is needing to recover after giving birth, being ill, etc., you step up. You take care of what needs to be taken care of in the household. Just recently, I was visiting a family, and I was invited to dinner. And the brother, mashallah, may Allah reward him, said his wife was not well, and so he pretty much, as far as I could see, prepared the entire iftar meal. The starters, the main dish, he was running from table to the oven to the cooker and back. And he said, in the end, he said, my wife is not well today, so it's on me. And this is just an example, of someone who was willing to be good towards his wife. Even before we started, he said, "Oh, do you mind before we start, can I just make a portion for my wife?" I said, "Of course you can." And he went and gave her some food first before we eat. This is just an example of what one can do and how much reward you would find in gestures like that. And so the Prophet ﷺ is encouraging things like this and others in the good treatment that is required of a Muslim man towards his wife. As for the wife herself now and her role in this relationship with her husband, we start with a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ was asked, which women are the best? And here refers to the wife. Which wife is considered to be the best type of wife? And he replied, التي تسره إذا نظر وتطيعه إذا أمر ولا تخالفه في نفسها ولا مالها بما يكره. Which means, and here by the way, we're not saying this is an obligation for every wife to reach such a level, but this is what the Prophet ﷺ is referring to as a type of elite wife. A wife that truly brings joy to her husband. For he said, the one who brings happiness to her husband's eyes when he looks at her. In the way that she, and we don't just mean here by physical beauty. Rather, for the joy he feels that I have, such a woman who, in her obedience, in her virtue, in the way that she conducts herself, the way that she is as a Muslim, etc., that looking upon her as a whole reminds him of the goodness that he sees in her, and he feels happy. One can imagine the Prophet ﷺ looking upon Lady Khadija radiyallahu anha and being happy when he saw her for who she was, not just, as we said, the physical appearance, that this is a woman who supported him, who was by his side, who comforted him in his hard times, who mothered all but one of his children, who was there with him, who went to exile with him, among so much of what he experienced, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that one can truly envisage she would bring happiness to his eyes when he would look upon her. And she is someone who obeys him when he directs her. So it is not an obligation religiously for the woman to obey her husband in everything that he says. But if she does, this is good. If she is able to, this would give her a high status. And she does not refuse him in herself, in her nafs, in her body, nor in her money in a way he is not happy with. Yes, we mentioned before, she has the right to spend her money as she wishes, buys what she wants to buy, spend it on what she wants to spend it on, but if she knows that he would not like it for her to spend her money on something particular, or to be extravagant in her spending, or to buy things that perhaps will not have much of a reason or benefit. She knows that. And while she has the right to still spend it as she wishes, if she chooses to not use her money in her way that her husband would not be happy with, she gets reward for that. Such a woman who is able to combine such traits, the Prophet ﷺ said, that is the best type of woman and wife. And so we see here that this requires an element of her going over and beyond what she is obligated to in the religion. So if she is willing to do that and is encouraged to do that to attain these high ranks, then know that the men likewise, the husbands likewise, are encouraged to go over and beyond the bare minimum and the fundamental rights, rather to do more for her and to be extra in their good treatment towards her, among other things. So we see here the Prophet ﷺ did not just say that the best wife is she who only fulfills the rights of her husband, or the best man is not only he who fulfills just the obligatory rights of the wife. He didn't say that. He said the best among you are those who treat their wives the best type of woman who obeys him in everything. So this is what the husband and wife are encouraged to do in this relationship, to be willing to go the extra step, to be willing to do some more, and to understand that this is an opportunity for both of them to gain a great amount of reward and elevate their status on the Day of Judgment. And not only that, but to also find an element of joy and happiness and peace in one another. Imam Muslim narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "الدنيا متاع وخير متاع الدنيا المرأة الصالحة." Which means that this world is one that is filled with luxuries and pleasures. And the greatest pleasure of this dunya is the pious wife. He did not say the most beautiful wife, the richest wife. He said the pious wife. She who fulfills her obligations that are due to her for Allah Ta'ala. She performs her prayers and her fasts, and other than that, she watches her tongue, her eyes, her hands, to ensure she does not disobey Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And so such a woman would bring a man joy. And he who has a pious wife would understand that. For she would be someone who, just as he would be as well, the pious man that is, be extra vigilant of not falling short in the rights of the husband or wife, out of their intense fear of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. This reminds me of a story that in the very early eras, soon, that is at the time of the Salaf, we're talking, in the first century after the hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a youth, young man, who was so hungry at home he went out of his house looking for something to eat. And he came across an orchard where he found an apple tree. And out of his intense hunger, he plucked one of those apples and ate it. And let that hunger leave him. He went home, but he regretted what he had done. He said, how did I allow myself to eat that apple without asking the owner for the permission for that? He regretted and wanted to repent, so he went to the owner of that orchard and the trees, and waited to find him, and said, look, I was hungry and I ended up eating one of your apples, and I seek your pardon and your forgiveness. The owner said, I'm not going to forgive you. The young man was devastated. He was in tears. He was wanting the forgiveness of this man. He wanted the pardon of this man. And so he didn't take no for an answer. He waited and waited until the man came out of his house the next day and saw that boy there, or the young man there, and said, look, I am willing to do whatever it takes to seek your pardon. If you want me to work for you to cover this burden and the debt and the value of the apple that I ate, then I'm willing to do that. Just please be willing to forgive me for what I did. So the man said, I'm willing to forgive you with one condition. He said, look, anything. Tell me what it is. He said, for you to marry my daughter. The young man thought that a strange request, but he said, okay, go on. He said, but my daughter is blind, deaf, mute, and crippled. Do you accept? So the young man reflected and thought, well, if this is what it's going to take for me to cover my debt, my religious debt that is, and seek the forgiveness of him, then that's what I'm willing to do. He said, I accept. He said, fine, you come to my house the next day and I'm going to give you my daughter in marriage. That will be, and he said, don't worry, I will cover the cost of the walima, and I will cover the cost of the mahar as well. So he came the next day, and for most men who are about to get married, you might find them with a spring in their step and looking forward to getting married. For this man, it seemed like, how to word it, the world was going to end for him, one might say. That he was going to have to look forward to a wife who was described to him of a state that he knew was going to be very challenging for him, but he was willing to do it. So he arrived at the house, and the man gave his daughter away in marriage to this young man and said, go ahead now to your wife. So he entered the next room and went to his wife who was waiting for him, but to his surprise, he found a woman who was extremely beautiful, who walked towards him and spoke to him. The man was a bit flabbergasted, for want of a better word, and confused. I was told about a different description. And she explained. She said, for many years, my father has been looking to find someone suitable to marry me, and has not yet found anyone until he came across you and saw that a man who was so willing to repent from eating one apple out of the fear of Allah, then for sure he would not fall short in fulfilling the rights of his wife out of fear of Allah. And she said, as for what you heard of my description, indeed my tongue is mute to saying anything that goes against the rules of Allah. My eyes are blind to seeing whatever Allah forbade me from seeing. My ears are deaf to hearing what Allah did not forbid me, did not allow me. And my feet are crippled, meaning that I do not walk to commit any sins. This was a pious woman that was granted to this man, and they got married, as we said, and she became pregnant soon after, and they had a boy. They had a son. And do you know who this son was and who this boy was? This boy turned out to be who? Al-Imam Abu Hanifa. May Allah Ta'ala raise his rank. It shows what can come of the union of a pious man and woman to have such a potential offspring of great piety as well. But it goes to show then the joy that can be found in having a pious spouse. Continuing then, Ibn Majah narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, لا تؤدي المرأة حق الله حتى تؤدي حق الزوج. Which means that the wife would not have fully fulfilled the rights of Allah until she fulfills the rights of her husband. Meaning, Allah orders the wife to fulfill the rights of her husband. So if she falls short in that, she has fallen short of obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This shows the great rank that the husband has and the status that he has over his wife. As for this pious woman, what do we look to see in her traits and personality and demeanor and mannerisms? The pious woman is she who fulfills the obligations of Allah and avoids the prohibited matters. What does that mean already? That by default she is a knowledgeable woman. She possesses knowledge of the religion. She has learned. And not only that, she applies this knowledge. She fulfills what she has learned in her acts of obedience and avoidance of prohibitions. And so she complies with the rights of Allah, and she complies with the rights of her husband, in at the very least what is obligatory upon her, but more than that. Because among the signs of the pious woman is the one who obeys her husband in whatever does not disobey Allah. Remember, she's going over and beyond what she needs to, what she is obligated to. Why is she doing that? It's not just love. It's not just she likes her husband. She's doing this for the sake of Allah. That this is something good for her to do religiously. And it helps if she has an amicable husband that she finds good company, who is nice to her and gentle to her. This obedience comes easier. And she is content with the little that her husband provides. She truly in her heart is content with that. Her heart is not in a place where she is longing for more or longing for something different, or in her heart, if only my life was like that of my friend and my neighbor and my sister, whose husband takes them for holidays and they go to cruises and they're in Dubai twice a year and they get to eat out here and new dresses. Rather, with whatever her husband provides her with, she is content. And she does not moan and complain a lot. Why is it always like this? And why do we never get to go out? And when are you going to take me on holiday? And You said we could go to this restaurant, and it's been a while, and when and how long, and moaning and complaining and nagging, one might say, about things that have no real religious need. She doesn't bother him with what concerns him of worldly matters. And she does not tell her husband to his face of the things she did for him, as if to boast, look what I have done and do for you, and do you know how long I've spent in the kitchen today, and while you were out working, do you know how long it took me to clean the house, do you know how hard it was to look after the children, and this is, what's the benefit of that? What's the sought benefit by telling him such things? Why did you cook and clean and look after the children? For what reason? For what benefit? If you looked after the child, wasn't it for the sake of the child, and that's your child as well, and for the sake of Allah? Why throw that in his face? Doesn't he go out and work and earn and provide and do things as well? Does he come back every day and say, do you know how long I've been at work today? 8 hours, 9 hours. He doesn't come back usually and say that every day, and so she should not then to his face be constantly reminding him of how much she does and has done and the like. And she does not desire everything she sees and makes her husband buy it for her. That they are going grocery shopping and she sees as they pass by new shoes and a handbag, and that would look good on me, and I don't have a dress in that color, and I know I have shoes like that, but I don't have ones with that type of buckle on, and pushes and hints and gently, or not as gently, encourages him to purchase things for her. And there might be times where he struggles financially, but he knows his wife wants this and it would make her happy. And perhaps she might feel disappointed if he doesn't provide it for her. So, out of his guilt and feeling bad and embarrassment, he ends up buying it for her while struggling. Might mean he has to now work more or cut down on spending something else or what he wanted to get or the like, because she wanted to buy something that she just desired without a religious need. So this is something for a woman to be wary of, that she doesn't constantly ask him to buy things for her, especially if it's not something that she needs and it's above what he is obligated to provide her. And she does not spend her entire day beautifying herself. To say, I spent 3 hours getting ready today, 5 hours getting ready today, and this is not a good thing. Why? Well, she could have been doing in that time more beneficial things. Remember, we're talking about who? A pious woman. Yes, it's good for her to beautify herself for her husband. Yes, that might take some time, but most of the day, hours and hours, what was happening in the meantime? And for one to say, but what if she does dhikr along the way for those hours, etc.? We're not talking about those types of scenarios, but generally speaking, that she would be using her time better by doing other good deeds than this. And she does not speak a lot of that which has no benefit. Yes, some women say that, I love to share things with my husband, and I can't wait to tell my husband this, and I just want him to know what happened with me today. And in its own right, there is no harm in that. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to talk with his wives at night to what's the word? to give them that good company out of his friendliness to his wives as well, that he was willing to spend, personal time talking about things, not just giving religious rules all the time. He would mention some things that were beneficial, but it wasn't that there'd be no conversations whatsoever between husband and wife, and it wasn't that they were just chit chatting all day long as well. So, when there is a benefit to say something, she wants to share something beneficial, she wants to get advice, she wants to run something by him, no problem. But just constantly talking about what has no benefit is not a good trade with any Muslim. As for the rights of the husband over the wife, the woman should treat her husband well, just as we talked about the man treating the wife well. And among what she should do is to be well mannered with him, speak with him in a soft way, not to have a type of short fuse and a rough tone and be frustrated with him, and rather be easygoing, being soft, being gentle, um, being polite. This might sound fairly straightforward and easy, but it is many times the case that husband and wife, when they are, for example, out in the world, at work, at um, around friends and peers, colleagues, when they're at the store, when they are purchasing something, when they're in the street, even when they're in their family's house, they are very willing to be overlooking of the harsh tone of others, the provocations of others. Someone at work annoys them, they still smile back and keep their feelings to themselves. The cashier was a little bit rude, they still muster a smile and say, I don't like you, but I'm willing to be quiet just to get on with my day and not cause a scene and not react back. But then they get home, they see something that might be negative or rough or harsh in the other, and rather than having the same patience and willingness to overlook and pardon and bear what they would do with others during the day among sometimes non Muslims, if they're not willing to do this at home, they react back, they talk back, they act back, they raise their voice. One little thing can set them off, and yet it wouldn't during the day. So, this softness that we're talking about and the good mannerisms that we're talking about don't always come easy, especially if one had a somewhat stressful day at work. Then they get home and sometimes they vent their feelings and they allow some of the built up and pent up anger to show with their family rather than with others. And this can lead to tension in the household and discomfort, and then the husband and wife are not talking for a while, and things like that occur which are not good. And so it's important that she is willing to be well mannered with him and soft in how she approaches him and speaks to him. So even if she wanted something from him or requested something from him, let her do so in a soft way. It's also good for her to present herself in an appropriate fashion by wearing clothes and fragrances that he likes and is pleased with. Again, sometimes a woman would say, there's no way I'm going out dressed like this. I'm not even going to the shop to get milk and bread dress like this. But we're just going to the supermarket. I don't care. Go out like this, wearing this. This is my chilling abaya. This is my relaxing gown. This is my lounging. These are my lounging pants. You want me to go out like this? Okay, you're not willing to present yourself looking like that out in the view of those who might just see you once in their lifetime, who it doesn't mean anything how they see you and observe you. And yet, that very same appearance, you are happy to project it in front of your husband. Someone in front of whom, if you presented yourself well with a good intention, you would get reward. He would be happy. He's going to be spending time. He's more likely to comment in a positive way if he sees something nice on you and from you. And take note here, though, that if he wants her to dress a certain way or wear certain clothes and fragrances, then he's the one who is obligated to provide her with that. He doesn't say, that lovely perfume, I wish you would wear it, and it costs £400 and he expects her to go and buy it. No. He wants her to wear it, let him buy it for her and say, look, it'd be nice if you wore this around the house or when I'm around, etc. Likewise, the woman should not expose secrets that he entrusted her with, even to her family members. So she doesn't tell her sisters and her mom, what her husband told her and what happened with him at work and the troubles he's having in his job and the frustrations he has. Just as she entrusts him with secrets and private matters, he does so with her. And just as he should not expose her, she should not expose him. And this is something important as well, because if the spouse does not provide this safe space for their spouse to speak and to share and to open up and vent and be willing to, say things that they would not be able to with others. There are things that a man, even if he has siblings, brothers, sisters, would not be willing to share things with them that he would with his wife. Things that a man might be shy for his mother to know about these things, but he's willing to talk about them and tell his wife. And if he's not able to find that comfort in his wife to tell her these things for one reason or another, and he wants to tell somebody, this is unfortunately something that results in him, although it shouldn't be the case, but unfortunately it does, looking for someone else to find, to confide in, and to share certain feelings in and thoughts. This should be the wife who has this role and position. But it's not always by default. What I mean by that is he and her, but in this example we're talking about the wife, to express to him that she is suitable to be such a person. She's willing to listen, she's willing to, not make the conversation about her. He wants to share something. If she does, she makes sure she does not tell anybody. She provides him with comfort, encouragement, support, rather than being judgmental and, you you were upset by what your manager said? What kind of a man are you? What's wrong with you? Man up. Okay, as we said, those types of feelings he might not tell his brother, his mother, but he feels them. Who is he going to share them with if not his wife? And if his wife gives him reactions to make him feel guilty about sharing such things, he might not want to again. Then later on she says, why don't you tell me anything? Why don't you share with me? Why do you never talk? Well, the last time he tried, this is how you spoke back to him. The last time he tried to open up, this is the reaction you gave him. He might not want to again. So it's something to bear in mind, and she should not speak to him in a way that breaks his heart. We gave an example that we just mentioned that he might be, proud about something or confide in his wife about something. And rather than being supportive, she talks to him in a way that breaks his heart. He might say, for example, uh, my manager is stepping down next month at work. I was thinking of applying for that position. Imagine the difference then between a woman who says, You? You're going to apply for that position? Are you feeling all right? How are you going to be able to do that? And hearing instead, Yes, I think you should go for it. I think you would make a great manager. I think you would suit that role very well. I hope you're able to apply, inshallah. The interview goes well. May Allah make it easy for you. Whether you get it or not, I know you provide value to that company. And don't worry about if you don't get it, but go for it. Make a huge difference to the heart and to the emotions of this husband and how he sees his wife. Remember what do we say? The Prophet ﷺ said, the best of women is he who the husband, when he sees her, feels happy to look at her. How would he look at the woman who supports everything that he does and the woman that's always negative and trying to bring him down in her speech? Next, we're going to share advice that a mother once gave to her daughter. So, a woman was preparing her daughter to leave the family house after she got married. That is, she was about to leave the house of her parents and move in with her husband. And this woman, this mother, look at this, a mother is saying to her daughter, act with him like a slave. Which 21st century mother living in the West is going to speak to her daughter like this? Rather, we might hear, make sure he treats you well. Don't be letting him walk all over you. Don't think, allow him to do what he wants. Let him know who's boss. Let him know you're there as well. And make sure you don't take any lip from him. And if you need to come back here, none of that. Act with him like a slave, and he will act with you like a slave, meaning in how they obey one another, how quick they are willing to fulfill the requests and orders of the other. And she said, stay firm with 10 things of advice or pieces of advice. I did them, and I was happy and successful with your father. So she's even speaking from experience, sharing with her daughter things that would make her a successful wife. She said, be content with what he provides. We've talked about that. Act with him in an alert and obedient way. These words are key. Alert. See what he needs. He's come back from work. What's his demeanor like? Is he stressed? Is he happy? Is he tired? Is he joyful? Is he in a bubbly mood? Is he feeling down? Be alert to that. Jumping in his face when he gets home while he's just had a long day and he's tired or stressed might not be the best reaction he wants to see yet. You might just, as he gets home, he's feeling a bit down, looking tired. You might make him a cup of tea, a coffee, prepared it for him, then start speaking to him and the like. How was your day? Everything okay? Or if he comes back very jolly and alert, he can't wait to share some positive news he got today. He got a promotion. Um, the tickets that he was waiting for Umrah or Hajj, whatever, came through, and he wants to share this good news with you. You're like, come on, I'm cooking right now, and can't you tell me later? And he ends up being disappointed. He was waiting to come home to see you, to speak to you, and this is the reaction that he got. So being alert to things like this are good. She said, let him not see anything from you that is not nice, and let him not smell except the best of smells from you. Some women say, my husband's so great. He doesn't mind if I'm wearing sweatpants at home, and he's okay if I look a mess. He's such a great husband. Okay, he probably won't say anything to you, but do you think he prefers you lounging like that every day at home, or do you think he'd feel and prefer, maybe not necessarily every day, but once in a while, you look better than the mess that you say you're comfortable, my hair's all over the place, and I look like I just woke up, and he's fine with that, and he doesn't say anything to me. Okay, you be proactive. Just because he don't say anything to you doesn't mean that he wouldn't appreciate you looking nicer at times and smelling nicer at times, etc. She said, pay due attention to his time of eating and sleeping. And these are perhaps under stress and undervalued. That if it's been the case that he's had a long day and he's not eaten for a while, and sometimes just having something to eat can lift the mood. If it's time for him to sleep, to rest, he's tired, and you say, I want to talk about life. Where are we going in this marriage? Can we talk about when we're going to have our next child? Can we plan, what's going to happen in 5 years? The man's trying to go to sleep. Now you want to have these epic conversations and heartfelt discussions. Now, it couldn't have taken place before, or if it is something that's going to happen in 5 years, it can't wait till tomorrow, or when he's got a bit more time, or he's not half asleep or tired, or one eye is closed and one eye is open, and you want to know, what should we name the next baby, and what do you think about, if I paint the kitchen this color and that color? Like, this can stress him out, it can frustrate him. You might want answers, might want this discussion, but look to see, is it something that's the best time to bring up conversations like this, and be wary of that. Mindful, sorry. Look after his money and his children, she said, and do not be happy in front of him while he is sad, and do not be sad in front of him while he is happy. If he has something positive to share and he's in a good mood, reflect that good mood. And if he is sad and you wanted to share something good and you were in a joyful mood, then just hold off. He's not in the best of moods right now, unfortunately. Give him some time to cheer back up and share what you wanted to share. And this, of course, can go both ways as well. If he sees her not in the best of moods, let him not, be trying to play along with her, or play fight with her, and she's clearly stressed out or not in the mood for that, and the like. She said, finally, know that you will not get what you want, meaning in the hereafter. i.e., of a high status, until you prioritize his desires over yours and his pleasure over yours. This is a woman saying this to her own daughter. Women usually want what's good for their daughters, give advice that they feel would lead to success for their daughters. And this is what she is saying, I did with my husband, I, your father, and it worked. And I'm advising you with the same. So I think we'll pause there, inshallah, for the sake of time. And perhaps we'll talk a little bit about the rights of the children in the next session. So that I'm not rushing, because I feel that if I continue from now, we might end up rushing through some of the points that I want to mention. So that we do the lesson justice, inshallah, we'll end up turning this into a type of three-part series, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum, and Allah Ta'ala